Bueno, estoy acá con Douglas de Steve Vai, así que nos va a contar un poquito sobre el shear de Steve.
Yeah, so let's go take a look at the rig. Playing at a very cool indoor arena today. So it probably makes the most sense for me to just go through the signal path, coming out of the guitar. Steve uses these custom long DiMarzio cables that I order from Larry, and they're 60 feet long. So that I can, long. Yeah, so I can loop it all the way back to my guitar boat to pull it so it doesn't trip. But it's great because it doesn't, color the tone at all because there's a buffer in the Gemini, so I beat it just to make sure that...
It's a great distortion pedal.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But the guitar goes into the wah-wah first, and it's just a stock Dunlop 95Q. And then it goes into the Gemini. It looks deceiving because the pedals are kind of in different places and the signal starts. But he likes the wah-wah over here because he uses his left foot. So if it was over here, he gets to kind of standing in zone here. But it goes into the Gemini after the wah, and he really only uses the kind of tube screamer side. And then out into the wah-wah, the whammy pedal. And he uses this thing for a bunch of different effects. He'll turn on the left side and start playing a note with the sustainer and start whacking around here, and it's crazy sound. But then he also uses it for the normal kind of octaver, like building the church. And this is his favorite effect. It's the momentary switch set to 7, so a fifth. And he just uses this all the time. It's just this really cool little pop of a note. And it's all over his records, since like the Story of Light. And they're all powered by this Chalks, I should say, DC7, which is a really great kind of discrete noiseless power supply. And of course there's the fan. It isn't on right now. And then we go back to the rack, which is kind of a 3-piece rack that I had to put together because of touring, doing a lot of fly dates. It's kind of hard to bring an enormous shock-mounted rack, so these are kind of like rack shells that go into these kind of custom foam-lined cases. So the guitar goes into the Synergy modules, and he's got a switcher on the pedal board so he can go through all the different clean and dirty sounds. And then it all gets funneled into the Axe effects. And each song has its own, preset and various scenes too. But all this stuff is really just Hydra, this rack here. This is a brain for the Hydra, so all the instruments on it go into this with an Ethernet cable. And then they each have their own volume control. Of course, they're all on 10. And then that, the 7-string goes into his normal rig. But the bass, the 12-string, and the harp go into the fractal for modeling. So that stuff just goes straight to the PA. And then there's the power amp. We use a lot of different power amps, but lately the LX2, the Fryette, has been kind of the go-to touring one because it sounds just as good as the, forget what it's called. I think it's something 9. It's like their big, power amp. And it sounds pretty close to it, but it's just so much smaller and lighter for touring. And the coolest thing about it is it just has a single master volume for both sides, when you're running in stereo. So instead of having to kind of futz around with 2 different levels, which are always different for some reason, you just have one control. And he uses it with the depth control pushed in. There's a presence and a depth control that you can tweak with a trim pot, but he just uses the stock settings with the depth in. And out of the power amp, it goes into the 412s. These are just rented cabs. They're not Steve's favorite because they have 70-watt Celestians. He likes vintage 30s, which are 60-watt speakers, but that's just his home bed. He loves those speakers.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of it. We can take a look at the guitars.
Okay.
There's a Hydra over there. Mm-hmm. People have seen enough of the Hydra.
The famous Hydra.
Yeah. So this is the first guitar that gets used in the set. It's called Bo. He's had it a long time. And it's a pretty normal guitar aside from the way it looks. It's not scalloped. Most of his main guitars are scalloped now, but he kind of prefers to keep this one.
The tuning is standard.
This one's drop C. He uses it on Bad Horsey and Avalanche. And it's got a Fernandez sustainer. Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah, well-worn road dog. And then this is kind of a fun newer guitar. He started using it on the first European tour we did last year, and I've done a handful of mods to it. But basically, it's kind of like a backup to Flow 3. You know, it's got the Fernandez. It's got a slightly scalloped neck. It's got the EVO gold fret wire that I put in, which is very similar to what Flow 3 has.
The Marcio Utopia in British?
It's an Evolution Utopia cover. Don't tell anyone I said that. But yeah, it's you know, this is kind of like Steve's home base, you know, slightly scalloped sustainer. That's what he likes. And then there's Evo, which is everyone's favorite guitar. Ooh. I think people, you know, most fans that are going to watch this video probably know, you know, the origins of Evo and the whole story behind that. But it's not that different from a regular stock gem, aside from the neck humbucker is actually an Evolution bridge model flipped upside down. And the reason...
Reverse it.
Yeah, and the reason for that is just so that when you use the fourth position, the coil closest to the end of the fretboard stays on. So it's a more truer kind of stratty sound. And I just refretted this one right before we left.
This is other version of the original Evo, no?
No, this is the original. He does have one of those, I think it was like a 20th or 25th anniversary, like the relic ones. Matter of fact, this neck is from his relic Evo. It was, he took that neck off, put this one on. Just kind of funny. The relic one that he has at home has a True Temperament neck. And Flow 3 is in the dressing room right now. But this is the candle-powered guitar, which is a guitar that he's had for a long time. Yeah, I think the LA Custom Shop built it for him in the early 2000s. And it's just a really cool guitar. You know, it's fun to kind of combine a Strat and a gem. And it's a really true Strat sound because, you know, it's 21 frets, so the pickup ensemble is in the normal kind of Strat position. It's not 24 frets with the pickups moved way back, and then it sounds like, you know, something I cannot say on camera.
These have a really Strat.
Really sound. When he plays it tonight, you'll hear it. You know, he kind of lives in the fourth position for that song. And it just...
The pickups of that guitar, is the Marcio?
They're actually Fender Fat 50s.
Really good.
You got the cool one. And this is a kind of a cool guitar. On the last tour, we started using the mirror ball universe that he used when he was in Whitesnake. And it was really fun to kind of take it out again. You know, our lighting guy, Phil, had the song program so that this big spotlight hit Steve and the guitar would just explode in any room that we played. But I thought it would be fun to kind of take a different guitar on tour just to change it up, you know. And I found this guitar and at Steve's. And it's actually a prototype for the 90th anniversary model. It's the only 7-string that they made with this aesthetic. And I didn't do a lot to it. I put some chrome DiMarzio Blaze pickups in and his normal little mods that he likes, high-pass fit. But the guitar just looks like Zeus in Chains. You know, it's like a weathered statue. The chrome is kind of a big statement. So it's a kind of a fitting guitar for the track.
Really good, really good.
And the only other guitar I have is this one, which is a stock John Scofield model, but it's been dipped by David Bonvillain.
The paint job is...
It's pretty wild. And the back is even crazy too.
The other one.
No one ever gets to see it because, you know, it's touching his body while he's playing. But yeah, this got delivered a day before we left for the last North American tour. And we're so excited because it's just such a cool guitar to see, especially under stage lights. But sonically, it's because Steve recorded Little Pretty on a Gretsch, it's nice to kind of be able to use a semi-hollow body live for it because it just sounds drastically different. It really fits that song. And we tried a lot of different hollow bodies. When we did rehearsals for that last tour, there were like 5 or 6 different hollow bodies. You know, some were fully hollow, some were semi, but this was the one that just really sounded the best.
So nice. Mira, así. Bueno, acá esas fueron un poco las guitarras de Steve. Alucinante. En un momento yo creí que el modelo era una Hoshino 90 aniversario, pero es una edición de 7 cuerdas. Con la diferencia que no tiene la tira de bubinga. Y esta es la Ivo original. Thanks so much.
Very welcome.
So much.
All right.